Welcome to the Advisory Insights podcast. I'm your host, Dan Horton, CEO of Aureline Advisory. We're a management consulting firm dedicated to one goal, partnering with business leaders to help them turn challenges into opportunities and to create a clear pathway to sustainable growth. For context, this podcast series will be exploring how leaders within the professional services industry are navigating today's trends and challenges and where they're finding success. Now, I'm absolutely thrilled to kick off today's episode by welcoming Steven Gabrielsen, who is the CEO of Creative Advising LLC, where he and his team make tax planning less taxing and far more strategic. Creative Advising specializes in proactive tax strategy and financial advising designed to reduce your tax liability, improve cash flow, and support your long-term goals so that you can run your business and they can run your numbers, which I'm very keen to learn further about today. Really appreciate the time taken today, Steven. Welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to have a conversation with myself. I appreciate that's a very high level introduction to yourself and your firm. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could add a little bit more depth, would be fantastic to get a bit more information around you and your firm.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so like you said, my name is Steven Gabrielsen. I've been a CPA for about 15 years. Creative Advising has been alive for 8 of those years. And at Creative Advising, we really focus much more heavily on the tax strategy aspect of the tax world. So we still do tax preparation, we still do bookkeeping, we still do payroll management, we still do all those basic CPA firm tasks. But where we really set ourselves apart is we work with our clients at least quarterly. Every client that we work with has the ability to reach out to us at any time with strategy questions or anything like that. And we really help them plan, understand their numbers, and make sure that they know what they're getting into towards the end of the year. We also help our clients, we pro forma their financials and then talk to them about different types of investments that they can make to help them reduce or eliminate their tax liability. So we're much more heavily focused on that strategy aspect. We do a lot in real estate, a lot in small business, and we do some alternative investing as well through like oil and gas investments, syndications, those types of things as well. So very focused on the strategy aspect.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that and giving a bit more depth around some of the service lines, which I'm sure we'll tap into again as we navigate this conversation. But as you mentioned there, you started in the profession 15 years ago, and I'd really like to go back to circa day one of that journey and really just get to understand what was it about that pathway that you chose. Is there a story behind that, or was it sort of a knee-jerk reaction that made you jump into this profession?
Yep.
Be great to get that detail as well.
Yeah, great question. So when I went into college, to be frank, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I had no idea. I went to college because it's something all my friends did and everybody did. And I was there more for the social aspects, more than anything else, to be honest. My dad is actually a CPA. My grandpa was in accounting. My older brother's a CPA. So my dad told me, if you don't know what you want to do, study accounting. So I jumped into accounting, and I actually enjoyed it. Out of all my classes, my accounting classes, I did enjoy more than most. And then upon leaving college, I did an internship at a private company, not in the public accounting world, but more on the corporate side. And I actually got hired on there after I graduated, worked there for a little bit, and I got an opportunity to leave and go work at my first tax firm. And that's where I really fell in love with tax. My first year, I honestly couldn't get enough of it, dude. I cranked. I think I had like 2,800 billable hours in my first year of work.
Wow.
And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And then from there, after that position, I went and got my CPA. I jumped into an MBA program, and hammered out my MBA right after I got my CPA. And then left after my MBA. I worked at another tax firm for about a year and a half. Had the opportunity to buy into that firm, and I decided, instead of buying this old archaic model of a CPA firm and then trying to reshape it with business partners, and taking on a lot of debt to do that, it made more sense for me to jump ship, and start my own and kind of create what I've always felt like CPA firms should do. And that's when I left and positioned the business to work more with people from a strategic standpoint rather than just from a filing your tax return standpoint. So yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell about me, how I got into the industry. I know it's not like most people. I didn't jump into it being like, I love accounting, I love numbers, I love this technical nitty gritty stuff. I actually don't truly enjoy that aspect. I more enjoy the aspect of teaching and helping people understand the tax code and helping them fulfill their patriotic duty by not paying taxes, by following the tax code. So that's really how I got into where I am now.
No, I really appreciate sharing that, and it's not too indifferent from my own journey. Many years ago, I had different careers, and by the time I turned 25, I thought maybe I should have done this when I was 18. But who knows? We'll try it out now and see where it can go.
Jeez.
So, you're absolutely right. I don't think there is a burning desire to move in, but I think there's a misconception of what accounting and finance and tax can give from a career perspective. And I'm keen to sort of take this down two avenues as well, Stephen, with yourself, because obviously I know that you've mentioned there that you founded your own firm, which I'm very keen to discuss as well. But if we could just stay on the topic of
Yeah.
what the accounting profession has done for yourself as well, and what you find from a rewarding perspective of the work that you do, I think is going to be quite important from the listener's perspective to understand what can a career within accounting and finance deliver. If you're not going to set up a business, what fundamentals can it give you in terms of the enjoyment factor of the work that you do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a great question. And the funny thing is there's a big misconception of how to be a successful tax professional or a successful CPA or however you want to label it. I think a lot of people think you need to be the type of person that can sit behind a desk and just crank all day long. And yeah, there's always going to be a need for those types of individuals within the profession. But I do believe that the profession is shifting and changing rapidly as technology has come along. And I know we'll get into that topic here in a little bit, but really what has been fulfilling for me in this career has been the ability to really connect with people and understand what people are going through and having those conversations with people that they don't typically have with anybody else, right? People come to a CPA to really help them with issues that they don't typically talk to anybody else about, right? There's this voodoo around talking about finances and talking about how much money you make and talking about that kind of stuff and talking about not wanting to pay taxes, right? That people come to their CPA with all these questions and want these answers, right? And so what's been really fulfilling for me has being able to set myself up in a way where I can approach these conversations in a very casual atmosphere, right? That's kind of why I go with my brand, SnapBack CPA. It's why I don't ever wear collared shirts, is because I want to break down that professional barrier so people can feel like they can come to me with questions and they don't feel stupid about asking questions. Where I believe if you're sitting across the desk of some dude in a suit and a tie and he's very smart and all this stuff, it tends to put up a barrier about what people feel comfortable asking, right? And so that's been really fulfilling for me to be able to sit down and really connect with people and help them through complex issues. And a lot of times it is more broad than just tax, right? A lot of times it bleeds into personal things, right? Issues with marriages, with how do you navigate this with finances, and how can I talk to my spouse about these finances, and how involved should they be, and how do I get them more involved, and all the way to you have these certain issues within your business, and how can you get through those issues, right? So it's a lot more broad than just tax, even though we're still talking about tax strategy at the foundational level. Building upon that tax strategy is much more in depth, and that's been very fulfilling for me, is really getting to know people, understand their situations, and then talking about what we can do to build their wealth, protect their wealth, help their kids out. We have discussions with people who they just got engaged and they're looking to get married next year, but we're going to have them get married this year to take advantages of the benefits of being married on a tax return. So they're going to get married this year, but then still have the wedding next year. So like things like that, right? You really are involved in people's lives, and it's a lot of fun, dude. It's great, and just building those relationships is what's been the most fun for me.
No, it's really great your take on that, and I think this is where I've been harboring conversations over the last 15 years
Yeah.
of understanding that it's from an outside in, without having any experience within the profession. You may think that it's stuffy, you may think that it's compliance heavy, and yes, there is an element of that, and there is a basis point for that. However, it's moving it through. Once you've sort of accumulated that experience, you're then on the sort of upper echelons of having the advisory conversations. And as you say there, this advisory can take you into so many different sort of variety of conversations and support. And I think this is why I'm very keen to sort of have these conversations, is to provide that education platform to those who think, oh, okay, if I want to become an accountant, am I going to be sat, doing tax returns all day? Am I going to have to do an audit? Am I going to just have to deal with deadlines? And
Yeah.
yes, that there is part of that, but
Yeah.
once you sort of accumulate that experience, if you're a good communicator and you want to be people focused, there is a massive pathway to take that on board as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're spot on. I mean, that first year that I said where I billed 2,800 billable hours, I can probably count on one hand how many times that was client facing, right? It was very little client facing, and it was all behind a desk, cranking out tax returns, learning the tax code, learning how documents come in, how they're supposed to be reported, getting quick and efficient with that reporting, um, to then get into the point where you can sit, because you have to have a very solid foundational base in that tax preparation game in order to sit down and actually be able to teach somebody in a way that they can digest it, right? And so you need to have a certain level of understanding in order to be able to actually teach it to people. And so you're exactly right. There's always going to be times in your career, especially starting out, where you are grinding. You're just, all you're doing is preparing tax returns and getting through it, and it's a necessary thing in order to get to the point where you want to get into that advisory service and be good at delivering that advisory service.
Sure. No, I really appreciate that. And in terms of, you obviously went through a period of developing skills and experience within corporate, but then also within tax firms. And as you said, you got to a point 8 years in where you were sort of at a point where there was a crossroad, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. And where, what was sort of the decision making process for yourself? And I know that this is some of the key conversations we're having in the market now, and I know a lot of people are in the same sort of mindset at the moment of what could be from the career within accounting finance, where could it take you? And you decided to found your own business. If we could just sort of take ourselves back to that particular time frame and a little bit about starting that up, would be great to sort of get some detail around as well.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was in corporate accounting, anybody that's been in corporate accounting, especially when you just start in corporate accounting, I was there probably a total for the internship and being hired on afterwards. I was there probably a total of about 6 months. Um, and in that 6 months, I think I worked on 2 journal entries. That's it. Right. And that's corporate accounting for you, right? You get a handful of complex accountings that you have to do, and you do it. You're basically busy for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks you have nothing to do. And then 2 weeks you do the same journal entry. And it was like, after that, for a period of time, I was like, this is not for me, because it was the same thing over and over. And I did not enjoy it. And so when the tax opportunity came up, I jumped onto it. I never saw myself as a tax guy at that point. And then jumping into it and grinding that out and really learning the tax code and the complexities behind it, is where I fell in love with tax. Like I said, right? That first year at that tax firm where I billed about 2,800 hours, I grinded. Some things happened within that tax firm that I didn't love. And I actually ended up getting let go from that position. And it was a crazy story, because I remember sitting down. We had just bought our first house. We had one kid, another kid on the way, another kid on the way. She's going to be born in 2 weeks from the time that I got let go. So I remember sitting on my couch thinking, like, how the hell did I fall into this position where I just worked my butt off for the last year? Basically feel like I gave everything to that firm, right? I was working late nights almost every single day, even in the middle of the summer. And, that was the point where I was like, I never, ever want somebody else to control my paycheck, right? I never want to leave that control up to anybody else. And so it was at that time that I knew that I wanted to start my own firm. I wanted to be a partner in a firm, and I wanted to be in control of my own destiny, right? And so it was from there that as soon as I got let go, I sat down, passed all 4 of my CPA exams within 3 months, jumped into my MBA program, got that taken care of over a year and a half, 2 years-ish. I still worked in tax firms during busy seasons throughout my MBA program. But I always had that end goal in mind, that I wanted to work for myself. And I knew that I had the entrepreneurial drive in order to do that, which a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't want to take that risk. A lot of people don't want to be in that world of starting your own and building it from scratch. And again, that is okay, right? It's good. We need people that are okay being that W-2 employee and working within firms. That's as necessary as it is with the CPAs that have that entrepreneurial drive to start their own thing. But accounting and advisory is a very unique business. As a service business. It's very easy to start a CPA firm, right? If you're credentialed, I think it cost me a total of $1,500 buying a computer, buying a microphone and a computer that had a camera is really all I needed in order to start my firm, right? And then a couple of other $100 for obviously setting up the LLCs and doing those things in order to get the business legitimate. Um, and then from there, it's just about getting out there and getting clients and doing that kind of stuff and the marketing aspects that also come with being a business owner, which I think is the difference between an entrepreneurial CPA and a CPA who's not necessarily entrepreneurial. But even those that aren't entrepreneurial, there's still a massive pathway to get up to partner, right? And to become a partner, even at your creative advising, and to have that ownership aspect without having to be that entrepreneurial type CPA, right? So there's tons of different avenues and stuff like that when you're getting into the practice.
No, thank you for sharing that, and that's I think it gives a lot of context as to the decision making process that can sometimes fall in order to sort of navigate a career pathway from there. But
Yeah.
you mentioned there around starting up your own business, and once you sort of get the legalities out the way, and you've sort of done that initial investment, if you're sat there then day one, it's go time. And I know that you're very, very sort of now years on, huge on the marketing aspect and really building up a branding perspective. But from a day one perspective, was that always something instilled in you and something that you wanted to go all guns on, or was that something that you had to sort of build up to at all?
Yeah, great question. So after going through the process of potentially buying into that other firm, when I said no, it was kind of the writing was on the wall that I was going to leave, right? As soon as I said no to buying into that firm, everybody knew that I was going to leave and start my own thing, right? Because if I wasn't going to buy in there, what else was I going to do, right?
Right.
And so if I could go back and do it differently, I probably would set it up to where I have kind of a bucket of clientele that I'm leading with. I left that firm and started my own business with 3 clients, right? One of the clients went bankrupt. After 2 months, one client went bankrupt, lost that client. About the same time, another one of my clients partnered up with a bigger company and kind of got absorbed into a bigger company and used their accounting firm, so they left. And then the third, I don't really remember what happened to the third, but they ended up leaving as well. And so I went from leaving that company, I had 3 clients. And then after about 4 or 5 months of being on my own, I went down to 0. I had 0 clients. And so it was extremely stressful, right? And so at that point, I didn't have anything to do other than figure out how to get more clients, right? And so it was just constant research, joining little networking groups to figure out how these people are getting out there and getting clients. And being kind of on that cutting edge of social media and building up those platforms to help that lead generation and client generation, right? And so it wasn't until about 8 months in that I got my first 3 or 4 clients after doing a speaking gig. I actually drove from Boise down to Utah, did a speaking gig for a real estate group. And I left that speaking gig with, I think, 4 clients, which was huge for me, right? It was massive. But still, I was still trying to figure out how can I build this thing out, right? 4 clients. I was doing them all monthly, so they're paying me monthly. I think it generated maybe like $2,000 in revenue a month, so like that's small. And so I was constantly digging, grinding, trying to find new ways of getting clients. And I stumbled across a strategy by leveraging LinkedIn to basically pull people's contact information off of LinkedIn. And so I did that here within Boise, and I basically scraped off LinkedIn all the local real estate agents, and then built an email platform that we then sent them emails with the subject line of coffee, because all real estate agents want to sit down and get coffee and network and do that kind of stuff, right? And so I sent out this email blast, and immediately within that email blast, I think I had a 75% open rate, which with an email is massive. Of
Absolutely.
that 75% open rate, I had probably 45 to 50% of those actually scheduled to sit down and get coffee. And so I went from 4 clients, and then after that email blast, I was all the way up to like 40 within like 2 to 3 months. And so really finding that thing that hooked people and got them in the door was massive. And so it was it was super stressful that first 8 months to a year. But then you kind of start getting used to it, right? You get used to what you're going through, and you get used to that marketing aspect and the importance of it. And yeah, so I'm to this. I just have such a strong belief that accounting firms are very stable, right? It's a very stable form of business. And if you can find a way to generate leads and generate clients, as long as you don't quit, you're going to be able to grow that business and grow it in a way that works for you and works for your lifestyle.
No, that's fantastic to hear, and it gives a bit more of a refreshing take on client acquisition
Yeah,
as a sort of broader term, because I know professional services and services industries can be heavily reliant on referrals, for instance, as a basis for building their profile, and that's
yeah,
absolutely, it's tried and tested. It's a fantastic way to
100%
grow
true.
your business,
100% true.
but I think it gives a real overview to aspiring entrepreneurs to really emphasize the importance of networking, getting their
Yes,
name out there, being confident with the delivery and the expertise that they have, and having conversations as frequently as possible. And I
exactly.
think it's the communication side of things that are, if not as more important than the delivery. If you can't generate clients, then you're not going to have a business.
Yeah, and you're not going to have word referrals. You're not going to have word of mouth referrals. You're not going to have those items. You have to have that client base in order to start generating those client referrals and things like that. So networking is huge. Getting to know people both in and outside the space, right? So knowing other CPAs, knowing other tax professionals that maybe do tax credits and not necessarily full tax preparation, or maybe they do estate planning rather than just tax preparation, right? And so then you can network and build relationships with those types of individuals and also generate good clients with them as well.
No, that's fantastic. And while we're still on the topic of client relationships, Stephen, obviously getting a client is one thing, but keeping a client is also another. So if you don't mind, in terms of your business's sort of philosophy around sort of client engagement and building relationships, if you could share a little bit about how you build a client base, but also keep a client base over a number of years, would be great to understand as well.
Yeah. So I've gone through both extremes on this, right? The early stages, when we were a smaller team, and we were just getting going, right? I was very heavily focused on the client experience. And when I had that first tranche of clients that I just talked about, it was quite easy for me to service them, right? Any single CPA can sit down and service 30 to 40 clients, right? That's not hard. The tricky part came with the growth, right? Because I had that big chunk of 40 clients that we landed relatively quick. I was building out a social media platform. I was also joining other networking groups in order to continue the growth and continue to build out. So that first year, we obviously were pretty small. That second year, we tripled in revenue. And then between years 2 and 3, we tripled again. So we went from very little to a lot, then a lot more, right? And I was still so focused on where I was in year 1 to getting clients, getting clients, getting clients, getting clients, that I had shifted away from, or I had so many clients that I couldn't service them anymore. So then I had to hire, right? So I started hiring. Um, and I kind of was from a mentality that I think a lot of CPA firms fall into, where I was hiring someone, putting them in place and letting them do their job, right? And I wasn't wrapping my mind around what the client experience was, how we were treating them, and what was going on there. And we got to a point where the wheels kind of started falling off of this firm, right? The client experience was dropping. People were not having good experiences in working with us. And after about year 4, I actually got to a point where I almost sold this business. I was like, I am sick and tired of this. People do not like working with us. I want to sell this thing. I want to be done with it. The tax preparations, massive headache. And at this point, I was still focused on generating leads and that kind of stuff, right? I was big on social media. I built out my social media platform. We were getting a ton of leads from social media, a ton of leads from all over the place, but the client experience was continuously dropping. And so I had purchase documents for this firm actually on my desk. And I decided I didn't feel good about it and I didn't want to do it. And so I decided instead of selling this thing, I was going to take it and I was going to break it down to the studs and I was going to rebuild this firm in a much better way going through what I had learned, right? I knew how to generate leads. I needed to learn how to generate a really good client experience, right? And so I got rid of about 80% of my book of business, just gave the clients away. And then I had about 20 to 30 clients that I had on a much higher monthly rate. So we bumped them up, had a much higher monthly rate to fill the bills. And so I could pay my bills and stuff like that. And I got rid of almost my entire staff. And then we kind of rebuilt it. I hired one at a time. I brought one other person in on the team. And together we got through that tax season and then we started rebuilding the client experience. What are clients' experiences? What are they happy with? What do they hate about working with us? We were not great at communication. We were not great at getting work through the pipeline, right? And so those are what we focused on. We focused on communication to our clients, communicating quick, communicating regularly, and then we also focused on our processes internally. Because lead generation without good processing or without good internal processes is a recipe for disaster, right? Um, and so we really spent 2 solid years of building out our processes, and we still took in new leads, but it was all from word of mouth. We weren't doing any outsourced lead generation. We weren't doing any social. I turned off my social medias. I turned everything off, and we were just working with that core client base to really build out that client experience as much as possible and make it as good as possible. And so we did that for about 1.5 to 2 years, and it's just been within the last 1.5 years that we've opened up the floodgates again to bring more clients into that experience. And our growth from then has been so much more positive than it was in the past. My growth in the first 4 years was a stressful growth, right? Where I could go sell something, but I wasn't even confident in selling that service because I wasn't fully confident we were going to be able to fulfill the service, right? Where now I can go sell with confidence, knowing that I have a team behind me that can actually perform on that service and perform well, and that client's going to have a good experience working with us. And so it takes both of those and bolting both of them together in order to make sure that you're able to generate those leads and then give those new clients a great experience, right? Because you need both of them in order to have a really successful accounting firm. Um, and it's kind of sad because I feel like within the CPA world, a lot of CPAs are in that struggle where they've grown. It's stressful. They work 80-hour weeks nonstop. And then they sell to these PE firms that have that same mentality: build revenue as big as they can get it, build profit as big as they can get it, and then just sell it again, right? And so you constantly are having these big firms that have clients that don't have great experiences, don't feel like they're being heard. And it's sad. I feel like CPAs themselves are kind of selling themselves short. But on the flip side, it opens up a massive opportunity for smaller boutique firms like us. I consider ourselves more boutique firms, who are very focused on that client experience. It adds a massive amount of opportunity for us to be able to service those clients, absorb those clients from those firms, and give them a good experience and show them how it should be working with a good CPA firm. So it's been a wild ride for sure, and we've learned a ton, and we're still constantly learning and developing and listening to our clients, which I think is huge. The one thing that drives me crazy about a lot of CPAs is we're so busy and we're so we are smart, right? We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing within the tax world. That we get to a point where it's like, well, I can either answer this client's question or I can get the work done, right? And we typically lean to getting the work done rather than answering that client's question. And we forget the main purpose of why these people are working with us in the first place, right? And we think it's, oh, I know better. I know what I'm doing. Like, just leave me alone. Let me do my work. And we kind of build this barrier between us and our clients. And I think that's sad, honestly. But yeah, so it's been a wild ride.
No, it's a great to understand sort of that it's not a linear journey. There are adaptations to the journey, and visions may change, and decisions factor into that. And
Sure.
there is a level of adaptability that has to fall as a business owner in comparison to, as you say, like just being on the delivery side and focused on that. There are so much more sort of concepts to change that you have to take on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, well, I appreciate you sharing around sort of the internal sort of challenges and the opportunities that have been born out of that. But if you don't mind, Stephen, in terms of what you're seeing from an external sort of market perspective at the moment, and I know at the very beginning of our conversation you mentioned around sort of technological advancements and how is that being factored in. I'd be really keen to get your take on both, again, from your own business's perspective of how you're adopting these changes as well, but also what sort of pressures and challenges are coming from
Yeah.
the changing of landscapes at the moment in navigating as a business owner. Would be great to understand, and sort of if your clients are facing these challenges as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting world, especially the last 2 years with the development of AI and really the big push into that world has been interesting both from a business owner's perspective as well as from a client perspective, right? From the client perspective, I love it. I love AI. The reason I do is because they have all these LLMs, these language learning models, where clients can go and ask complex questions and get decent answers to those questions. Right? They can go in and say, "Hey, here's my situation. I'm a real estate agent. I have all these things going on. This is how much money I'm going to make. How can I reduce my tax bill at the end of the year?" And then that LLM will give them a list of things that they can do. We're at the point now where it's absolutely impossible for that individual to take that information and go file a correct return on their own, right? So they still need a professional. They still need a CPA. They still need a tax professional to help them implement it correctly. But what I love about it is it allows that client to develop an understanding and develop questions that they can then bring in and be like, "Hey, I was messing around and this is what it generated for me. Like, what do you think about this?" And it opens that conversation that you can have with that client and go through those items with them and teach them about what they're reading and what they're going through from that perspective, right? So that's been great. I love that. We've had great conversations with people who play around with those LLMs. And then on the internal side, I also love it, right? A lot of CPAs out there are freaked out. It's going to take our jobs. When Excel came out back in the 90s, CPAs were saying the same thing. It's going to take our jobs. How are we going to do all this stuff? And that's not the case, right? It really allowed us to expand on what we were able to do within our profession and within the capabilities of each individual professional, right? And I believe AI is going to do the same thing. I don't think it's going to replace us. I think it's going to allow us to expand on what we're already doing, and really give us the opportunity to bring even more value to the clients that we're working with if we leverage it correctly. It also makes us more profitable, which is also amazing, right? There are now tools out there where when we used to have one bookkeeper that could maybe manage 30 sets of books, right? Where now we have one bookkeeper that can manage 100 or 150 sets of books, right? Which increases profit and makes us deliver to our clients faster and more digestible information, right? Same thing on the tax side, right? We're having softwares come out that take care of almost all of the preparation from the tax return perspective. And so currently we outsource a good deal of our tax preparation overseas to Philippines and to India. And we're going to be able to leverage those relationships. So instead of those individuals in the Philippines and India only being able to handle 300 returns a year, with the softwares that we're pulling in and implementing, we're going to be able to have them handle maybe 1,000 or maybe 1,500 tax returns per year with each of them. And we're still testing these things. We're still trying to make them work better within our systems, but it's really helped us systemize both the client experience to where we can now service much more clients than we were able to originally, at a much better value, right? So our communications are much better because everybody on the team, client sends us an email, it goes into our software, and everybody on the team is able to see that email. And so then anyone on the team can jump in and answer that email or start talking about it. And so we're able to get back to client emails within 4 hours, usually internally. Not only that, but when the workflow goes through our system, we can see when clients are uploading documents, what other documents we still need from them, and then able to push it through the tax preparation process in a much more efficient way than we were in the past. So client uploads all their documents. We can go through an initial pass on it relatively quickly. We can see what else we need or what we're missing. And a lot of softwares do this for us to say, hey, this was on a return last year. We still need this document. And we are able to send those lists to the clients in a much more efficient way. So it's really the technology that's coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited about because it makes that data entry, the data entry aspects of the job so much more automated and so much more efficient that we're then able to focus on, here's the final product. Here's where we landed versus what we planned on. Here are the differences that we see. Here's what we can do better next year. Also, not only just next year, but in 5 years, here's what we're planning, and here's what we could think might happen from a tax perspective, as far as what's going on in Congress, and we're really able to do much more effective tax planning and provide a much better level of service to our clients.
No, that's a fantastic overview. And I think by embracing the technology, I think is the best way to put this. You've
Yep,
been
yeah,
able to also navigate different areas of your business and find efficiencies, whether it's global resourcing, whether it's directly attributed to certain workflows, and as you rightly say, it's enabling more higher leveraged activity.
yep,
It's not replacing; it's enabling those sort of those higher lever pools that you're able to deliver,
exactly.
spending more time with clients, and if the clients are educating themselves prior as well a little bit more, it's enabling more high level conversations to happen more regularly. And I
Exactly.
think, as you say, that it's not the replacement. I think the replacement factor is for those who aren't incorporating some of these
Exactly.
software or
100%.
technology advancements that if you remain stagnant is probably the worst thing to do at this point in time.
Exactly. 100%. And you even see that back in the 90s, like I said, with Excel, right? Uh, so when I joined the second tax firm that I worked for, that I almost bought into, they still had a handful of clients that they worked on handwritten, um, uh, what are they getting called? I don't even know what they're called. Handwritten sheets though. So you do your debits and credits handwritten on a sheet and then carry it to the P&L and L and the balance sheet, right? Which, like, looking at that now is archaic. And it's terrible because you have human errors through each one of these things. And so, like, we still had a few returns that were being done like that, which just blew my mind. And so there are still CPAs out there, believe it or not, that still probably prefer to work with handwritten, actual spreadsheets and stuff like that, rather than even utilizing simple tools like Excel, which just blows our mind at this point, right? And so if you push this career 10 years down the line, there are still going to be people today that refuse to use all these softwares and all these things that make the job so much easier. And those are the ones that are going to get left behind, right? Those are the ones that are going to be less favorable to be looked at from an acquisition standpoint. It's going to be harder to sell those businesses because your systems are so archaic. And clients probably aren't going to want to work with you for too much longer because we have a whole wave of young entrepreneurs and young business people that are coming up in the world, and they're looking to work with people who are like-minded and want to leverage these softwares and want to do things quickly and get them done efficiently. And if you don't grasp onto that, and if you don't implement those systems and procedures into your business, you're going to be left behind, and it's going to come quicker than people anticipate.
No, absolutely. I think what I've had conversations with over the last couple of months, and in particular, it's the expert will always remain
Hmm.
because it has to oversee the work that is being done by the AI of some sort. It still has to have a review. It still has to
Exactly.
be strategized, and the outputs are only as good as the inputs to a certain degree as well. So I feel that if there's an adoption, it's still maintaining the stance of being the expert, but also then utilizing, if you can get yourself 85% of the way there quicker, so that you can spend more time doing more 15%, you're able to then start seeing the compounding effect over time once you sort of establish a grounding from there on.
Absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree.
Well, obviously, so far, Stephen, we've discussed sort of your career today, your sort of business today, and it's great to hear of the growth story that you've had within your own business over the last few years. But what's next for you and your business coming into the next 3-5 years? You mentioned a lot of the adoption of AI that you've incorporated into your business. It sounds exciting. What's on the horizon for you and your business coming into 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like we've talked about, there's a within the CPA profession, and I haven't done a ton of research on this, so don't quote me on this data, but it's my personal opinion. There's a lot of older CPAs, right? 60 years or older, maybe even 65 years or older that have run firms for a long time. Then between the ages of like probably 40 to 65, there's not a whole lot of CPAs. My age group, I'm 35. I believe between the ages of like 25 to 35, we're starting to see a little bit of a uptick in CPAs again. But then coming out of college, there's not a lot of CPAs, right? There's not a lot of people graduating in accounting anymore. During COVID, I think over 300,000 professionals left the industry within a year. And I'm sure those numbers are growing. But there's a massive opportunity in helping those older generations of CPAs transfer those businesses, and absorb those businesses into your own, and then automating those businesses, making them run much more efficiently. There's massive opportunities there, and so that's where we're kind of looking into the future. We're getting into much more of the acquisition mode. We're looking to purchase up 2 to 3 firms in the next year, in order to help with our growth. And to really help spread what we're doing. So that's kind of where we're looking right now. We're also looking at, we have creative advising, which is more the advisory, high level. It's relatively expensive for clients to work with us. We're also looking at developing another company around the tax preparation only aspect, where maybe clients aren't to that level yet, but they're growing and they're almost there, right? So we want to be able to service them. And so we're developing a product offering around just the tax preparation aspects only. We're building that out currently. And then obviously we're talking about those acquisitions and starting to roll up accounting firms, in order to continue to build our business. And so that's kind of what we're looking at going into the next few years here. And we'll see how it plays out. Like everything, it's not going to be easy. I don't expect it to be easy, and we're going to learn a lot as we go through it, and hopefully continue to build on our systems and processes and to leverage the new technology that's coming out to help make these transitions easier and smoother, as well as still continuing to be able to add the best client experience as possible.
No, it sounds incredibly exciting, and obviously it goes without saying. I wish yourself all the very best of
Thank
luck
you.
and
Thank
success
you.
in incorporating that. And I'm sure there's going to be so many different facets to take on board within that as well. And it's an exciting time. But you mentioned something quite there that I find very interesting around the sort of decrease of those looking to get into the profession. And I always end these conversations with, well, two questions essentially, and one being directly aligned to this. Well, what would you say would be the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is going through a graduating program at the moment, or is stuck in at this point in time in what they want to do next? Is there something around accounting and finance that in particular, or is it just a piece of advice in general that you would give to those about what pathway they should take?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes down to opportunity, right? The main reason we're going to school, the main reason we're getting out into the world and working and providing these services, whether it's in tax and accounting, or whether it's in engineering, or whether it's in the medical field, or any other type of um, career that you're choosing, it's to generate income for yourself and for your family, and opportunities for yourself and your family, right? The accounting industry has massive amounts of opportunities. Um, and probably the easiest way to go through that is by talking about the fact that I've talked to a lot of newer accounting firms, and when I say newer, that have been around for about 5 years, that are growing really rapidly, that have done a lot of amazing things within the industry, within the tax world. The crazy thing is a lot of the owners of these firms and the people who have built them don't even have accounting or tax backgrounds. They're not CPAs. More of them are coming from the engineering space, seeing a massive opportunity in the tax world and buying up these service-based businesses, and then building good SOPs and building good infrastructure and building good processes internally in order to provide better services. So if you're seeing all these professionals from all these other industries coming into the tax world, and a lot of these CPA roll-ups and acquisitions of CPA firms are not happening from other CPAs. A lot of them are happening from private equity firms, and a lot of them are happening from other people coming into the space, because there's such massive opportunity here. And so my piece of advice for people going through through college and going through their education to determine where they're wanting to go, there's a massive opportunity here. And if you can get credentialed and you can be entrepreneurial and you know how to build a business also while being a CPA, your ability to sell, your ability to acquire, your ability to make the other CPA firms that you're buying from, to make them comfortable selling to you, is massive if you are credentialed and if you have the ability to go in and talk the talk, as well as being able to buy up those businesses and automate them and make them run more efficiently. It just makes you, or your ability to scale that is much more effective than others are. So I would say that there's just a massive amount of opportunity here. And there's a massive need, right? There's always a huge need for tax professionals, for accounting professionals. Um, and so there's still a lot of opportunity. There's still a lot of juice left um, to be squeezed. So yeah, I would say if you don't know what you're wanting to do and you still want to have a successful career, accounting is an amazing path to take.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that, and I hope the listeners do take on board the breadth of advice there. And there's no one size fits all. There is an element of try and see if you like, and adapt it to your own sort of mindset and how you want to make it. And I think in all these things, it can open up so many opportunities over the years. It's not
Sure.
remain in the same role for 5 years and that's all it will be. It can develop and it's all, I think it can be based on the relationships as well and the network that you build around that, and hopefully you get a broad sort of overview of clients and businesses, and that's, gets your interest as well, one way, shape or form. And if you don't mind me asking, Stephen, in terms of the final question that I always ask guests as well, being a senior leader now and a business owner, what do you feel is the most rewarding aspect of the work that you do day to day?
Yeah. Again, it comes down to helping people, right? I'm big on relationships and just being able to help people, make them feel good, is huge for me. So whether that's internally to our staff or whether it's externally to the clients that we're working with, that's what brings true value to me. When a client comes in, they have a great experience, they save a lot of money, and they love working with you. Like that's what it's all about. We were just down in Houston. We got to sit down and have dinner with one of our clients, and we got a lot of that validation of, he sat down and was like, I love working with you guys. It's been amazing to work with someone who sees where I want to go and wants to go there with me. Like that was huge for him. And hearing him relay that to me made everything that we've gone through over the last 6 to 8 years worth it. Right. And also being able to provide opportunities to our staff and helping them level up within the firm and being able to pay them well and being able to show how much value that they're adding to the firm also adds a massive amount of benefits to me. I love seeing that, and that's really why I'm in this game. And so that's my biggest my biggest enjoyment and my biggest takeaway from all this is just being able to continue to give back.
No, absolutely. And I think it's a testament to the work of the service
Yeah,
element of the work that
exactly.
you do. It comes full circle
Yeah, for
over
sure.
time, and it's
It does
fantastic
for
to
sure.
hear. And I can hear it in the tone of your voice as well. The excitement is still very much burning. The desire is still very much there, and also just the fulfillment
Yeah,
aspect. The work that you do is still very much there, and that's great to hear.
for sure. And it definitely is. And I hope it continues. And I think it will. And as we go into this next chapter, I'm excited to see what's going to come down the pipeline.
No, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, Stephen. It's been really great to get your insights and learn about a bit more about your journey. And it feels like there's still so much more of the journey still yet to come. And again, I wish you all the very best of success and that coming into the new year. I'm very keen from a listener's perspective, if they're keen to learn a little bit more about yourself and your firm, how can they go about doing that? Would you be able to provide a bit of an overview as where your website is and a bit more about some of the social media presence that you have as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here and have this conversation with you. This is cool. This is a cool podcast to be a part of. But yeah, so I'm big on social media. I'm the Snapback CPA, like a hat, a snapback hat. So Snapback CPA on Instagram and TikTok. I'm also Steven Gabrielsen on LinkedIn and Facebook. And then Creative Advising, we also have a social media platform for that across all those as well. So please, please, please reach out to us. I'm always open to interacting with people through social media. You can also find our website at www.creative-advising.com. We have a list of services and stuff there, and you can book free 15-minute consultations with us there. Again, I'm always here to connect with people, whether that's other CPAs or other tax professionals or people looking to get tax advice. I just love talking with people about all this stuff. So reach out, connect with me.
Absolutely. No, you've definitely heard it there, everybody. Please do get in contact with Steven and his team. I'm sure they'll be delighted to help in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you so much, Steven. It's been great to speak with you today. And I wish you and your business all the success for the future.
Thank you, Dan. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Well, that's it for today's episode, everyone. Another great and insightful conversation. Thank you for listening. I've been Dan Horton. This has been Advisory Insights, and we will catch you on the next one. Have a good week, all.